Hello friends, welcome back to the channel. Last video, we got two words, Georgia and crown. So for today, we got another country with the letter G, and we are going to travel from Guam almost 10,000 kilometers to Georgia. And today we are going to talk about the topic for today's video. Honestly, this topic was quite a hard one to research, but I hope this video is as correct as possible. And if you have anything to point out, please do so in the comments below. And yes, this video is going to be quite a long one. And I hope you stay with me until the end of the video. Thank you. So first of all, let's look. Where is Georgia? Not that Georgia, but this Georgia. Georgia, or its Georgian name, Sakartvelo, is a country in the Caucasus region at the intersection of Eastern Europe and Western Asia. It is bounded to the west by the Black Sea, to the north and east by Russia, to the south by Turkey and Armenia, and to the southeast by Azerbaijan. The capital and largest city is Tbilisi. Georgia covers a territory of almost 70,000 kilometers, and approximate population of Georgia is about 3.7 million people. Now, let's look at the definition of crown. What does crown actually mean? According to the internet, crown means a circular ornamental headdress worn by a monarch as a symbol of authority, usually made of or decorated with precious metals and jewels. It can also mean the monarchy or the reigning monarch. So for the context of today's video, we are going to talk about the monarchy, specifically the monarchy in Georgia. So to understand about the Georgian monarchy, we have to look at Georgian history. To better understand about this topic, we first have to look at the timeline of Georgian history. The monarchy in Georgia has a history of more than 2,000 years. And today we are going to look at the Georgian monarchy. So first of all, let's look at the first phase of the Georgian monarchy, which is the Kingdom of Iberia. Iberia, not to be confused with this Iberia, but the Iberia in Georgia. During the classical era, several independent kingdoms became established in what is now Georgia, such as kingdoms named Kolkis and Iberia. So now we are going to focus at the Kingdom of Iberia. Iberia, or the Georgian name for it, the Kingdom of Kartli, was known after its core province, and it was a significant monarchy in the Caucasus region during the classical antiquity until the early Middle Ages, either as an independent state or as a dependent of larger empires, notably the Sassanid and the Roman empires. Iberia centered on the territory of present-day eastern Georgia. Its population, the Iberians, were the ancestors to the Kartvelians, which are the modern Georgians that we see today. Iberia was ruled by many royal dynasties, such as this one. So who are the prominent kings in the Kingdom of Iberia? So first of all, we are going to look at the first king of Iberia, which is King Pharnavaz I. So Pharnavaz I was the first king of the Kingdom of Iberia. The Georgian Chronicles credits him with being the first monarch creating the Kingdom of Kartli or the Kingdom of Iberia. According to traditional accounts, the three unique scripts of the Georgian language were invented by King Pharnavaz I of Iberia in the 3rd century. That is quite an impressive feat. So next, let's look at the next king, which is King Mirian III. King Mirian III was the 22nd king of the Kingdom of Iberia. He is the first Georgian king to adopt Christianity, and he introduced it as a state religion during his reign. The Georgians officially adopted Christianity in the early 4th century after the Christianization of Iberia by Saint Nino during the reign of King Mirian III. In 337 AD, King Mirian III declared Christianity as a state religion, giving a great stimulus to the development of literature, arts, and ultimately playing a key role in the formation of the unified Georgian nation. The Georgian Orthodox Church contributed to the spiritual and political unification of early Georgian states. Today, he is regarded by the Georgian Orthodox Church as a saint and is canonized as saint equal to the apostles King Mirian III. Next, we look at the final king of Iberia, King Bacarius III. So he was the 37th king of the Kingdom of Iberia. During his reign, the kingship was abolished by the Sasanian emperor King Hormizd IV. Starting in the early 6th century AD, the kingdom's position as a Sasanian vassal state was changed into direct Persian rule. When King Bacarius III died in 580, Hormizd IV, which was the Sasanian king, took opportunity to abolish the monarchy and make Iberia a Persian province ruled by a marspan or a governor. So this marks the end of the first monarchy in Georgia, which was the Kingdom of Iberia. So after the Kingdom of Iberia fell and after Georgia became a Sasanian province, there has been a new monarchy in Georgia, which was the Principality of Iberia. So the Principality of Iberia was an early medieval aristocratic regime in the core Georgian region of Kartli, or Iberia. It flourished in the period of interregnum, which was the middle period between two kingdoms, between the 6th and the 9th centuries, when the leading political authority was exercised by a succession of princes. The Principate was established shortly after the Sassanid oppression of the local royal dynasty, which was the Kingdom of Iberia, that fell in 1580. The Principality of Iberia lasted until 1888, when the kingship was restored by a member of the Bagration dynasty. The time of the Principality was a very important part of the history of Georgia, as the Principality saw the final formation of the Georgian Christian Church and the first flourishing of the literary tradition in the native language, and also the rise of the Georgian Bagratid family and the beginning of cultural and political unification of various feudal enclaves. So who were prominent princes in the Principality of Iberia? One of the most prominent princes was Prince Ashot I the Great. He was the first of the Bagratid family to have attained this office. He is the head of the Bagration dynasty, and he presided over the period of cultural revival and territorial expansionism. He fought to enlarge the Bagratid territories, and this led to the Bagration family's growth in prominence, and it restored the Principate of Iberia in 1813 after various decades of unrest. A patron of the Christian culture and head of the church, he has been canonized by the Georgian Orthodox Church today. So why is this part important? It's because the Bagration dynasty is the dynasty that will rule Georgia for years to come until the end. So after the Principality of Iberia came a new kingdom of Georgia, which was called the Kingdom of Iberians. So the Kingdom of Iberians was a medieval Georgian monarchy under the Bagration dynasty, which emerged circa 888, succeeding the Principality of Iberia. The region played a crucial role in the unification of all Georgian lands and principalities into the Kingdom of Georgia in 1008. So now let's look at the prominent kings of the Kingdom of Iberians. So the first king of the Kingdom of Iberians was King Adarnas IV. Adarnas IV was a member of the Georgian Bagratid dynasty. In 888, he is responsible for the restoration of the Iberian kingship and the revitalization of the Iberian monarchy, which had been absent since it has been abolished by Sasanian Emperor in 1580. Now, let's look at the last king of the Kingdom of Iberians, which is King Bagrat III. In 1008, Bagrat III of the Georgian Bagration dynasty had been king of Abkhazia since 976. He inherited from his father the crown of Iberia. So Abkhazia and the eastern Georgian states were unified under a single Georgian monarchy ruled by King Bagrat III of Georgia. He united these two titles by dynastic inheritance, and through conquest and diplomacy added more lands to his realm, effectively becoming the first king of the Kingdom of Georgia from 1008 on. So thanks to King Bagrat III, in the Middle Ages, the unified Kingdom of Georgia emerged. So now let's look at the Kingdom of Georgia. The Kingdom of Georgia, also known as the Georgian Empire, was a medieval Eurasian monarchy that started circa 1008 AD. Georgia became one of the most important preeminent nations of the Christian East. The Pan-Caucasian Empire was this large at its largest extent, and also they maintained several religious possessions abroad, such as the Monastery of the Cross in Jerusalem and the Monastery of Iveron in Greece. It was the principal historical predecessor of present-day Georgia, and it lasted for several centuries. So now let's look at a few prominent kings of the Kingdom of Georgia. Like we've talked about earlier, King Bagrat III was the one who unified territories of Georgia into the unified Kingdom of Georgia. So he was the first king of Georgia, and he was the one who united for the first time all the territories of Georgia. Moving on, the Kingdom of Georgia reached its zenith and its golden age of political and economic strength during the reign of King David IV the Builder and Queen Tamar the Great from the 11th to the 13th centuries. The period during the reigns of David IV and his granddaughter Tamar has been widely named as Georgia's Golden Age or the Georgian Renaissance. This early Georgian Renaissance, which preceded its Western European counterparts, was characterized by impressive military victories, territorial expansion, and a cultural renaissance in architecture, philosophy, and the sciences. And the Golden Age of Georgia left a legacy of great cathedrals, romantic poetry, and literature. So first, let's look at the great kings during the Golden Age of Georgia. David IV the Builder. David IV the Builder was a king of the Bagration dynasty. He was popularly considered to be the greatest and most successful Georgian king in history, and an original architect of the Georgian Golden Age. He succeeded in driving the Seljuk Turks out of the country in 1121. His reforms of the army and administration enabled him to reunite the country and bring most of the lands of the Caucasus under Georgia's control. A friend of the church and a notable promoter of Christian culture, he was canonized by the Georgian Orthodox Church. Even today, he has left tons of legacies for us to see. For example, the Jalan Monastery, a UNESCO World Heritage Site, was built by King David IV. Also, in Georgia, there is the Order of David the Builder given to citizens who contribute a lot to the development of the country. And also, there is an airport in Kutaisi which is known as the David the Builder Kutaisi International Airport. And also, the National Defense Academy is named after him. Now let's look at the next great monarch of the Georgian Golden Age, Queen Tamar the Great. Tamar the Great reigned as the Queen of Georgia, presiding over the apex of the Georgian Golden Age. Her position as the first woman to rule Georgia in her own right was emphasized by the title Mepe, which means king. Queen Tamara was also regarded as Mepe Mepeta, which means King of Kings. She ruled in a period of political and military successes and cultural achievements and presided during the peak of the Georgian Golden Age. During her 29-year reign, she is considered the most successful ruler in Georgian history. She succeeded in neutralizing opposition and embarking on an energetic foreign policy. Supported by a powerful military elite, she was able to build on the successes of her predecessors to consolidate a large empire. Tamar's reign was associated with a period of political and military successes and cultural achievements. This, combined with her role as a female ruler, contributed to her status as an idealized and romanticized figure in Georgian arts and historical memory. She remains an important symbol in Georgian popular culture today. So today, Tamar has been canonized by the Georgian Orthodox Church as the Holy Righteous Queen Tamar, with a feast day commemorated on the 1st May of the Julian calendar, and the Antiochian Orthodox Church observed the feast of Saint Tamara on 22nd April. Next, the next king of the Georgian Golden Age, George V the Magnificent. George V the Magnificent, also called the Brilliant or the Illustrious, was a flexible and far-sighted politician. He recovered Georgia from a century-long Mongol domination, restoring the country's previous strength and Christian culture. He was named Brilliant for his role in expelling the Mongols, and George V was the last great king of the unified Georgian state. During his reign, he reunited Georgia in 1330 from various unrest happening in the nation. Due to Mongol invasions, the Black Death, and Timur's invasions, it devastated the country's economy, population, and urban centers. The kingdom's geopolitical situation further worsened after the fall of the Byzantine Empire. George VIII, he was the last king of the Kingdom of Georgia. During his reign, his kingdom was already splintered and embroiled in civil war. As a result of this, by the end of the 18th century, Georgia turned into a fractured entity. There were incursions by Timur and many other regional powers. Thereafter, the kingdom declined. It eventually disintegrated under the hegemony of various regional powers. This led to the final collapse of the kingdom into anarchy by 1466. In 1490, after several decades of dynastic infighting, a national council agreed on the division of the Kingdom of Georgia into 3 kingdoms. The kings of the unified Georgia retained the largest of the divided kingdom, which reverted to its old name of Kartli. The Kingdom of Imereti and the Kingdom of Kakheti emerged as the other 2 Bagrationi kingdoms created out of this division. This also led to the mutual recognition of the constituent kingdoms of Kartli, Kakheti, and Imereti as independent states, each led by a different branch of the Bagrationi dynasty. So now let's look at these 3 newly formed states out of the division of the unified Kingdom of Georgia. First of all, the Kingdom of Kartli. So after the division of the unified Kingdom of Georgia, the Kingdom of Kartli was ruled by King Constantine II, the Kingdom of Kakheti was ruled by King Alexander I, and the Kingdom of Imereti was ruled by King Alexander II. Now is where the story gets a bit more interesting. Now let's look at the last kings of the Kingdom of Kartli and Kingdom of Kakheti. The last king of the Kingdom of Kartli was King Teimuraz II, and the last king of Kakheti was his son, King Heraclius II. So in 762, both the kingdoms of Kartli and Kakheti were unified into the Kingdom of Kartli-Kakheti. From the early 16th century, these 2 kingdoms were under Iranian control. In 1744, the Iranian Shah granted the kingship of Kartli to Teimuraz II and Kakheti to Heraclius II. as a reward for their loyalty. When Nadir Shah died in 1747, Teimuraz II and Heraclius II declared their independence from Iranian control. So after Teimuraz died in 1762, Heraclius II succeeded him as the ruler of Kartli as well, thus unifying both kingdoms as the new Kingdom of Kartli-Kakheti. So now let's look at the new unified kingdom of Kartli-Kakheti. The first king of the kingdom was of course King Heraclius II. He was the one who unified the country. So Heraclius II was a Georgian monarch of the Bagration dynasty. He was the one who unified the two kingdoms into the kingdom of Kartli and Kakheti. Heraclius nevertheless succeeded to stabilize eastern Georgia to a degree in the ensuing period and was able to guarantee the autonomy of the kingdom throughout the period, becoming the penultimate king of the unified new Georgian state. His reign is considered as the swan song of the Georgian monarchy. Aided by his personal abilities and also the unrest of foreign powers, he established himself as a de facto autonomous ruler, and he unified Eastern Georgia politically for the first time in 3 centuries, and he attempted to modernize the government, economics, and also the military. Overwhelmed by the internal and external menaces to Georgia's precarious independence and also its temporary hegemony in the Caucasus region, he placed his kingdom under the former Russian protection in 1783. Russia and the Eastern Georgian Kingdom of Kartli-Kakheti signed the Treaty of Georgievsk, by which Georgia abjured any dependence on Persia or another power and made the kingdom a protectorate of Russia, which guaranteed Georgia's territorial integrity and also the continuation of the ruling Bagration dynasty in return for Russian protection. But this move did not prevent Georgia from being devastated by the Persian invasion in 1795. Heraclius died in 1798, leaving the throne to his heir George XII. So now let's look at King George XII. King George XII of the House of Bagration was the second and also the last king of Kartli and Kakheti. His brief reign in the closing years of the 18th century was marked by significant political instability. Weakened by poor health and also overwhelmed by problems in his realm, George renewed a request of protection from Tsar Paul I of Russia. On 22nd December 1800, Tsar Paul I of Russia, at the request of the Georgian king George XII, signed the proclamation of the incorporation of Kartli-Kakheti into the Russian Empire, which was finalized by a decree on 8 January 1801. After his death, Imperial Russia took advantage of the moment and moved to annex the Georgian kingdoms. Before Prince David could ascend the throne, Russia fully integrated Kartli-Kakheti into the Russian Empire and abolished the monarchy. So this marks the first part of the abolishment of the Georgian monarchy. Now let's look at the Kingdom of Imereti that we talked about before. So the Kingdom of Imereti survived until this point of time, and the last king of Imereti was King Solomon II. King Solomon II of the Bagration dynasty was the last king of Imereti until his deposition by the Imperial Russian government in 1810. Following the annexation of Eastern Georgia on 25th April 1804, Solomon II of Imereti accepted Russian vassalage, and in 1810 he was removed from the throne. The Western Georgian Kingdom of Imereti was finally annexed by Tsar Alexander II in 1810, as Solomon II was deposed. On February 20th, the Russian administration sent in troops to take control of the kingdom. Solomon retaliated by rallying the people against Russia. He was the last Imeretian king and also the last Georgian Bagration ruler. Solomon II died in exile in 1815 after attempts to rally people against Russia and to enlist foreign support had been in vain. The body of Solomon II, the last reigning Georgian king ever, was moved from Trebizond to Gelati Monastery in 1990. So after all this, after the full abolishment of the Georgian monarchy, Russia sent the remnants of the Georgian royal family into forced exile in Russia. The Bagration royal family was deported from the kingdom. So this marks the official end of the Georgian monarchy that had started more than 2,000 years ago. After all the Georgian kingdoms fell, it was annexed into the Russian Empire. After the Russian Empire fell, the territory of Georgia became the independent Democratic Republic of Georgia. But after the Soviet Union was formed, the Democratic Republic of Georgia fell to Soviet Russia's Red Army invasion in 1921. The subsequent political repressions forced many of the Bagration family members to flee the Soviet Union. Some of them died in purges. Many members of the Bagration dynasty were forced to flee the country and live in exile after the Red Army installed the Georgian Communist Party. So Georgia remained under the Soviet Union until 1991, when the Soviet Union fell and Georgia became the independent country of Georgia. So today, Georgia is a unitary parliamentary republic with a government elected through a representative democracy. So of course, after more than 2,000 years of monarchic rule in Georgia, it left a very notable legacy in Georgia today. So what is the legacy of the monarchy in Georgia that we can see today? Georgia had a monarchic tradition tracing its origins back to the Hellenistic period. The medieval kingdom of Georgia, ruled by the Bagration dynasty, has left behind a legacy that lasts in Georgia even in modern times. The qualities and symbols associated with the Bagration monarchy has been crucial in the making of the Georgian nation and the subsequent construction of its national identity. Several branches of the dynasty survive to this day. Since Georgia regained independence in 1990, the dynasty have raised their profile. Although Georgia became independent from the Soviet Union in 1991 as a semi-presidential republic, the debate on the monarchy, particularly as a constitutional form, has never actually ceased. The issue came up most recently amid a political crisis in 2007, and in 2008, the two rival branches of the royal family were united in marriage. So the monarchy option in Georgia has always caused an ambiguous resonance among the people. On the one hand, the monarchy is considered a symbol of Georgian unity and independence, and on the other hand, it belongs to a remote past with a significant gap of more than 200 years of monarchic tradition. The supporters of constitutional monarchy continue to argue that this form of state would best protect the interests of the Georgian people, as a monarch would reign, not rule, and act as a safeguard of stability and national unity. They see the return to the monarchy as historical justice, referring to the fact that the native royal dynasty has never actually been rejected or overthrown by the Georgian people. Rather, the monarchy was dispossessed by a foreign power, which was Russia. Several polls were held regarding the monarchy in Georgia, and just look at the results. So for now, we only have to wait and see how things go on in Georgia. Also, this place in Georgia looks really cool. Really hope can go here someday. So that is all for today's video. Now let's look what random country will we get for the next video. We got El Salvador. And now what random word will we get? We got clock. So that is all for today's video. For the next video, if you are from El Salvador, or if you know about clocks, or even better, if you know about El Salvador and clocks, do reach out to me in the email and mailbox in the description below. With that being said, if you like the video, don't forget to like, subscribe and share, and even if you didn't, do the same as well. Thank you and see you next time.